Hi guys, it's Aimee Brewer with Parent Academy. I'm so sorry that we didn't get to meet for our last module and have a lot of fun practicing these skills that we've been learning all year. But I do understand that this is where we're at, and so what we thought we would do is just bring you a couple of videos and review the skills that we learned throughout each module. So today I'm going to be talking about math, and we're going to be reviewing those skills. So in our math module, we learned 4 basic skills. We learned counting, we learned shapes, we learned colors, and we learned patterning. And I'm going to give you a couple of really neat activities that you could do with these while you're at home during this quarantine time, this crazy time in our lives right now. Something that will, 1, get the kids out and moving, and 2, help you keep your sanity at home. So for counting, students need to know that counting is a sequential order of things. 1, 2, 3. We count in order, and each one of those numbers represents a quantity. And some really cool, fun activities that will help them get the wiggles out at home would be you could draw a number line on your sidewalk or driveway with chalk, and you could have them hop or skip the numbers as they count them. You can also draw a hopscotch, which is basically squares where you have numbers written in the squares, and you take a rock and you toss it. When it lands on a number, you ask your child, "What number is that?" Of course, if they don't know yet, it's okay to tell them, and then have them hop to that number as they count. 1, 2, 3, and so on. Another thing that was always really cool for my kids was blowing bubbles. I mean, every kid loves to blow bubbles. It's just so neat to watch them form a shape and float up into the air. So one thing that you could do is you could blow bubbles. And as your child alligator claps those bubbles to pop them, they can count each bubble as they pop it. So you can also find things around your house. You can look at toys, count toys. You can count cereal pieces. You can count snacks, those little gummy snacks or cookies, anything. You can count those things and have them count with you or count by themselves. These are all skills, and it's just practicing. And I know that sometimes it seems kind of repetitious to continue to count just basic things, but it gives them a lot of confidence when they know that they can do it on their own. And it gives them practice too. So for the next area was shapes, and we asked that every child learns at least 3 basic shapes before they enter kindergarten. Well, when they enter kindergarten, we're going to focus on some basic shapes. We're going to focus on circle, triangle, square, rectangle, and hexagon. And so if you learn 3 basic shapes like the triangle, the circle, and the square, they're going to be well ahead in kindergarten. And a couple of really cool activities to do with that is 1, simply going on a scavenger hunt or playing I Spy and really talking about the attributes of the shapes. And when I say attributes, I mean how many sides does a triangle have? That's how you can recognize that it's a triangle. Are the lines curved or straight? Because we know if it's a curved line, it's probably going to be a circle. So really discussing those things and having them practice. And another skill that you could tie into that I Spy or on your scavenger hunt when you're using shapes is you can use colors. We want them to know their basic colors. I mean, in kindergarten, we're going to teach those too, but isn't it really neat when you feel confident about something entering into it? And that's how we want your child to feel too. When they enter into kindergarten, we want them to feel confident in themselves so that they will share and participate more actively. So you could go on that I Spy, play that I Spy game or go on the scavenger hunt, and you can say, "I spy a black circle." Oh man, well, if I'm walking down the street, I'm going to be looking for that black circle, and I might see that that could be the tire on a car. That would be a black circle. You can find shapes all around you. All you have to do is look. And kids love playing that. I know that during our module when we were talking about the I Spy game, we talked about it in a restaurant or things like that. And I know that we can't be in restaurants right now, but we can definitely be outdoors and just get to enjoy nature and participate in everything that it has to offer. So, for our last skill that we learned, it was patterning. And patterning is being able to take a set of objects and put them in order and notice how the pattern is sequential or how it continues on. So, for example, if you have a color pattern, 2 red, 2 yellow, 2 red, 2 yellow, you have to be able to continue that patterning on. And what this is going to do is it's going to help your child not only in math, but it's also going to help them in reading, because a lot of what we do is retelling stories. And that is just going to take them much further whenever they can do it and feel confident in it. A lot of these skills that we talk about doing is really about building confidence. We know that we have to teach them a lot in kindergarten, and when they leave us, they're going to be a little bit more independent, but we want them to feel confident when they enter in. It just makes the whole school year go well. And I just really want to say that I was truly honored to be able to work with you guys this year, and I hope some of these activities have been fun for you and that you were able to take something away. I just encourage you to take this time with your family and your kids. Really spend it together, practice these skills, and take time learning one another. That's really what this time is all about. Again, I know that it's a big bummer that we don't get to participate in our fun end of the year game night, but it is what it is, right? And I hope that this has kind of encouraged you and helped you to find some activities at home, think outside the box, and do some things to help your child learn and grow. For right now, I just wish you well, and I hope that you stay safe. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Hi guys, I'm going to remind you of some of the things that we talked about when we did reading and writing. So the good thing is that a lot of these can be done in the safety of your own home. So the first thing that I'm just going to look through the book and kind of remind you of is the environmental print. So that is any kind of like logo that your child can easily recognize and say, oh, that's McDonald's, oh, that's Sonic, whatever. So you can do this activity with these cards if you still know where they are. Or you can get in your car and drive around and, drive past McDonald's. Okay, what's the first sound in McDonald's? M, it makes mmm. See the arch of the M for McDonald's. Okay, let's head over, keep on driving down to Sonic. What do we hear in Sonic? The S sound. So that's something you can do from your car. Easy peasy. You can practice along with that, like reading signs and things, like road signs. And if you still have this book, then you've got the cards and you can form the sentences. I can read stop. I can read whatever the next one, Target or Sonic or McDonald's, or that's what all of these little cards can be used for, to practice reading that way. The next thing that I want to remind you of is book talks. So a book talk is when you read any book with your child, and just make sure you kind of go over the basic parts of it. So what's the front of the book? Where do we open it to start reading? Kind of like the really foundation beginning stuff. Okay, so the title of the book is usually the big letters, the big words on the page. So this book's title is Dragons Love Tacos. What do you think this book might be about? Maybe about dragons, maybe about tacos. Two really great things. Gotta love both of those. Talk about the back or the spine, the back of the book. The author for this one is Adam Rubin, so he wrote the words. The illustrator is Daniel Samiri. they drew the pictures and they worked together as a team to make this book come to life. And you can go through the book, and as you're reading with your child, get them to point to a word or a letter. Find the letter T. There's a bunch of T's on this one. It says, spicy salsa gives dragons the tummy troubles. Tummy troubles. They put toppings like tomatoes for tacos, all kinds of, and obviously you can do any letter, but that was just the first one that popped out to me. And talk about, okay, well, what happens in the beginning of this story? What happens in the middle? What happens in the end? And you can do that with any book. It can be a book that your child knows by heart, that they're super familiar with, or it can be a brand new book that you just got Amazon to deliver to you. It does it either way. Great. Works great. And talk about, okay, how should I hold the book? Do I hold it like this? Do I hold it like this? Do I use it to fan? No. Okay, when you're probably reading with your child, you've got it maybe snuggled up in between y'all, and you're kind of sharing and reading together. Turn the pages gently, make sure we're not ripping and going through super fast, so that y'all can just really enjoy that time together in the reading. Another thing, so going along with the parts of the story, like the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, the end of the story, there is a really cute YouTube video that we use in my classroom, and it is called Parts of the Story, and it's by Heidi Songs, and I've got it just kind of pulled up on my phone. I'm just going to play the first 10 seconds for you so you can kind of get an idea, but it just goes through the people or the characters. The setting is where the story takes place. The beginning is what happens first. The middle is usually where the problem is, and then the end is how it all kind of closes out together. So here's just a quick sample of it. My kindergartners love it. They go through that all the time. It's like less than 2 minutes of a video, and it will be stuck in their head and in your head, so you're welcome for that. And it is just called, I wrote it out so y'all could see it. You just go to YouTube, and it's called Parts of a Story Song, and it is by Heidi Songs Resources. Okay, so another thing that you can do while we're at home is work on alphabet hide and seek. I don't know if y'all remember that activity, but my kids, especially at the beginning of the year coming into kindergarten, love this one. So you just hide or place the letters around your house, wherever, and say, okay, go find the B. And then they find the B and they can bring it back to you, or they can use the, there's a recording sheet somewhere where they can color in the letters. They would color in the B once they find it. They don't have to do that. If you have used this paper or don't still have the paper, you can modify this in any way. I suggest only doing a couple of letters at a time, so not all 26 uppercase letters or all 26 lowercase letters, but maybe 7 at a time, so you can they're not overwhelmed, and it's still kind of a fun game and not a hard activity. So we have those with the uppercase, and then the same thing with the lowercase. Now, if you don't still have this book, can't find it, honestly, you could make your own. Get a piece of paper and write an A on it and say, okay, go find the A. You can reverse it and let them go hide the cards, and they tell you a letter to go find, and you have to bring it back and let them check you. They'll love that, to get to kind of be the teacher. Another thing that y'all can be working on at home is practicing writing name. So this is one of my favorite activities, or my kids really love this at school, is making a name puzzle. So you would write their name on a whatever kind of piece of paper. This is just a plain piece of paper that I had, and so I wrote the name Molly. and I made sure to space out the letters in between Molly so that I had enough room to cut a design in between. So you can draw the lines and then cut if you want to, or you can just go straight to the cutting part. I just kind of did that so I didn't have to cut on camera. So you want to make sure that this can be self-checking, and so that the designs are different. So you can do squiggles, you can do zigzags, you can slant this way, slant that way, get some little, like for the Y, I just kind of went around the Y. And if your child has a name like Molly where there are two of the same letters, you want to be sure that they can find the right spot for it to go to make the puzzle. If your child has already mastered their first name, move on to the last name. If they've got first and last name down pat, start working on sight words. You can do this with any word that you want them to be able to read and notice and recognize. You can also, if you remember, do the rainbow tracing. So you would write their name first for them with whatever color. I suggest like yellow, because they can see it, but it's not going to block any of their other colors. And then they go back and trace it with blue or with yellow or with green or red or whatever color they want to use and to work on spelling their name. And last thing is just some ideas of things to kind of write about. So here is the big like poster of all different kinds of things that they can write about. They can write about their family, they can write about their favorite books, their friends, their pets, the weather, their grandparents, anything that sparks their interest and that they want to be able to express an idea about, go for it. And depending on your child's level of writing abilities right now, they can tell you what they want their story to say or what they want their writing to be about, and you can write it for them, doing like kind of a shared writing. You can get them to spell their sight words, I, can, see, and then you can write the next part. Or if they want to write about any of these things, or anything really, if they have the words on there already, so like if they want to write about their birthday, there's the word birthday right there. So my birthday is on August 15th, or whatever their birthday is, whatever they want to write about. And that kind of finishes it up for me. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you've been reminded of some activities and have some fresh ideas of some things that y'all can be working on while we're all at home. Good luck, guys.
Hi, Parent Academy family. Mary Beth Moore here to talk with you a little bit about oral language today. We were so disappointed that we weren't able to hold our last session, our demonstration night, where you have an opportunity to walk through and practice some of the things that we've been talking to you about with your child. So I'm here today just to kind of give you a little review and reminder of some things that we talked about that can help develop your child's oral language before they start kindergarten. And I want to begin by reminding you that oral language is just verbalized language, and that children who enter kindergarten with strong, fluent, and structured oral language tend to be more successful in the subjects of reading and writing. So it's such an important building block to their school success, and we want to do everything we can to make that foundation as strong as possible. The only way that they can build oral language skills is through interactions with others, especially with adults. So this one falls on us as teachers and adult friends and parents to really take the time to develop this skill in children. The first area that we talked about was using phrases and sentences to communicate needs and thoughts and to describe events. So the big one here is just talk, talk, talk. Talk as much as you can. Talk all the time. You can talk during meal times. You can talk at bedtime. You can talk in the car. You can talk in the grocery store. All of these times are opportunities for you to build your child's oral language skills, and it's super easy. All you have to do is engage with them. It's important when we're talking with children that we want to be a good model. We want to model what good listening looks like, but we also want to model what good oral language sounds like. You want to make sure to keep eye contact with your child. Look at them in the face when they're talking. We want to give them time to process what we've asked and to gather their thoughts before they answer. So in class, we call this lag time. So if I ask a question, I usually count in my head 5 to 6 seconds before I go on. I want to give them an opportunity to come up with an answer along the lines of what I'm looking for. We also want to avoid interrupting. You want to allow them to finish a thought completely. And this helps instill in them, number one, confidence, and number two, that we value what they're saying and that what they're saying is important to us. And we also want to avoid changing topics too often or too quickly. We want them to be able to have a conversation on one topic for an extended period of time. And by not changing the topic, it allows them to really develop their thoughts there. The second area that we talked about was understanding and following multi-step directions. And this kind of fits in with our general development module that we learned about, and it's so important for them to build confidence in this area. We want them to be able to go to school, hear what the teacher asks them to do, and have the confidence to say, I know how to do this. That's where it starts. It's just with having the confidence to say it. So remember, with following directions, you want to always start out very, very simple. This is another one that you can do all throughout the day. An example I can give you is when it's time to go to bed. So you want to start simple, and you may want to just say, go put your pajamas on. Just that one simple direction. And once you confirm that they can go to their room and do that, goes back to some of those general development skills as well, then you want to add another step. Maybe the next night you would say, or a week later you might say, go to your room, put on your pajamas, and then brush your teeth. So then you've really kind of stepped it up and added 3 steps for them to do. Go to their room, put on their pajamas, and brush their teeth. Once they get really good at that, then you might want to add a step in there. After you brush your teeth, make sure you choose a story for us to read for bedtime, and keep developing their ability to be able to listen and follow those directions. Again, this is going to really build their confidence and help them when they go to school. It kind of helps them learn to start processing things and remembering the steps that you need to do something, like reading. Reading, we teach steps and tools for them to use. So it's going to be important for them to be able to retrieve that information to apply it while they're working. The third area that we talked about was using descriptive vocabulary. And this was a big one that we talked about in the grocery store, super easy. Descriptive vocabulary is just what it sounds like. It describes what something looks like. So we want them to be able to use words like big, bigger, and biggest in the appropriate way. So one example that we gave you was while walking through the grocery store, maybe if you find apples, let them choose an apple, and then give them the task of trying to find something that's bigger than the apple. And then once you find something that's bigger, maybe you found a cantaloupe, then you can find a third object and look at them and say, now let's discuss which are big, which one's bigger, and which one's the biggest. We want them to be able to look at things and describe what they look like, describe where they are. This is a great time also to use positional words. Going back to that following directions, have them help you when you're in the grocery store. I know we're not taking our kids to the grocery store right now out of safety with the virus, but when life returns to normal and you're in the grocery store with your child, give them tasks to do. Tell them things like, I want you to grab a fruit that is red and sitting in a basket. So then they're going to not only be learning descriptive vocabulary, but they're also going to be following those multi-step directions. So you can combine a lot of these activities into one to sharpen all of these skills. The next area that we talked about was knowing the names of objects, and we want to know their true name. So we always want to use the real name that something goes by. So we said that this was a great opportunity to play I Spy, and we showed you a great video of playing I Spy. Again, just like with the multi-step directions, you want to start out very, very simple. Maybe I spy and give a color, something that is green, and give them an opportunity to find it. Don't give up right away, but when you see that they're having a little bit of trouble, maybe give them a little more of a specific clue. I spy something that's green and something that's sitting on top of the piano. And maybe they're still having trouble with it, so you might add a third clue. I spy something that's green, sitting on top of the piano, and it's in a pink pot. And I bet by that clue they're going to say, the plant. The plant is green, sitting on top of the piano, and it's in a pink pot. So again, you're combining all of those skills. You're developing their oral language. You're talking about descriptive vocabulary because it's in the pot. You're also bringing in multi-step directions there because you're not just giving one clue, you're giving multiple clues. But again, you want to start out simple, give them an opportunity, and then you want to build on it from there. I Spy is something you can play again all throughout the day, no matter where you are. I Spy is a game that works and it's free. The last area that we talked about was asking and answering questions. And this is one of the hardest ones, even as a teacher, because it takes a lot of patience. Sometimes we just don't want to have to talk. We don't want to have to answer questions that we may think are silly, or questions that we've maybe heard over and over and over. But it's so important that we take the time to answer questions and develop their ability to ask questions. So it takes a lot of patience. And we also want to remember when we're asking them questions to ask open-ended questions. We don't want to ask questions that have just a one-word answer, or questions that can be answered with yes or no. So it's important when you're talking with them, try to really develop your questions. And if you ask them a question and they do give you a one-word answer, you can always step in and model again how to develop that answer. So if you ask them, what did you do at school today? And their answer was recess. So you can come back with another question. Well, tell me something you did at recess that you really enjoyed. Or you can give them an answer that would be a little more descriptive. So if you've asked them what they did at school today and their answer was recess, you can come back with, oh wow, recess sounds like fun. I bet you were on the swings outside. And try to, again, remember the only way that they're going to develop these skills is from interactions with you and interactions with others. So we always want to model for them how it should sound and what it should look like. So just as a final little review, I printed out a little review page so that we could kind of go over some things. And I'm just seeing this number 800 and realizing I did not go over the number 800. Remember, 800 is that magic number of how many new words they need to be learning a year. And that's a lot. So it's really going to be something that we need to do every single day as much as we can. Talk, model, model. Be patient, and take the time to do it. We talked about multi-step directions, step 1, step 2, and step 3. We talked about asking and answering questions. We talked about using that descriptive vocabulary, words like big, bigger, and biggest, words like small, smaller, smaller, smallest, fast, faster, fastest, hot, hotter, hottest, all those kinds of descriptive vocabulary. Here's a picture of a mom and a daughter talking, and remember, we want to set a good model for what a good listener looks like, and we want to model what good oral language looks like. And then the last one says, show me. And this is just to remind you that you are your child's first teacher, and they are going to develop good oral language skills when you are modeling for them and taking the time to talk with them. Super easy, and it's super free. I hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe, and we hope to see you again soon.
Hi, my name is Dawn Brazell,
and I teach pre-K at Lafayette. And what I want to do today is just to go back over, kind of review what we talked about in our very first module, which was general development. Remember, our main goal is to work on the skills that will help them get ready for kindergarten. We talked about 5 skills. The first one was gross motor. And remember that they're going to develop these skills through repetition and a lot of practice. So, ways that we can work on those this summer is playing Simon Says. And remember the animal walk we did that was in your book that gave you examples of ways that they could work on their gross motor skills by doing the animal walks around the house. You can play with them, do it outside this summer. Also, we did the throw and catch. Remember, that was a way to practice throwing the beanbag or tossing a ball back and forth. And remember, you toss lightly at the beginning and you start close and then you move apart. The better that they get and you get farther and farther away. Also, you could draw hopscotch out on the driveway, and blowing bubbles this summer would be a great way to keep working on the gross motor skill. Have them popping the bubbles with their hands. And also our next skill we talked about was fine motor skills, and they can pop the bubbles using their fingers, try to catch the bubbles and pop them with their fingers. That's working on those fine motor skills. And writing. We had these little pages, and you could practice tracing the lines from one to the next with your dry erase marker. But remember, when you're working on those skills, to really focus on how they're holding their pencil. Remember, we gave you this example of incorrect and correct ways of holding your pencil. So work on that this summer. We worked on stringing the beads. And remember, we gave you these, and putting the bead on the pipe cleaner is a good way to work on those fine motor skills. And you can do them in patterns. That would work on your fine motor skills too. And cutting. Work on cutting. Remember, put your thumb on top and just let them practice cutting out of magazines, cutting pictures out of magazines, or just cutting paper, or maybe even finding some little thicker material to use to cut. That's something good to work on. Also, another thing we talked about was personal life skills, working on their skills that they need to deal effectively with challenges in our everyday life, like getting dressed every morning, being able to use the restroom by themselves, washing their hands, which I know y'all done a lot of that this already. Keep working on that this summer. Being able to open, they're going to be eating breakfast and lunch at school, and being able to open the things that you send in their lunch, or like opening milk cartons and things, or their juice boxes or whatever. Work on those this summer of practicing opening those things. And brushing their teeth. That's a good life skill for them to practice. Also, remember, we did our to-do list, our life checklist. Remember, we talked about
setting these up and working on moving them over after they complete them. And there was one in there with hand washing, so that's been great to use lately, I'm sure. Another skill to work on this summer would be following directions. And remember not to do it. Don't ask them to do it. Tell them to do it so they'll know exactly what you need them to do. And remember, give instructions one at a time. You can number them. 1, the first thing I need you to do is this. 2, do this. Okay, now 3, do that, and then they can check themselves that way. Just be precise and make sure that you tell them exactly what you need them to do. The last skill we talked about was social emotional skills. These look like understanding how others feel, how they play with others, how they resolve conflict. Remember the feeling cards we gave you? Keep working on those this summer, where they identify their feeling and then they tell you how they feel or why they feel that way. Remember these? You probably have it up in your house somewhere. And this helps them learn the language to be able to tell you how they feel. So talk about this a lot. I feel sad. Why do you feel sad? Give them the words to help them be able to tell their teachers when they get in kindergarten of, I feel angry because, and that was another little chart we gave y'all was about the anger rules. And it's okay to be angry, but you're not going to hurt yourself, you're not going to hurt other people, and you're not going to hurt other people's property, tear up things. And then talk about why you feel angry. And then I think the last thing in our book was little stories that you had that you could read with your child and help them talk, to talk about. And those are also skills like taking turns and how to find a friend. So those are little stories, saying I'm sorry, that you can, that will lead you into talking about things that they're going to experience in kindergarten and how to handle those. So those are just some ideas, some examples to work on this summer. So they'll be ready for kindergarten, and that's all I have. I hope y'all have a great summer.